Welcome back to another episode of the Black Minutes Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Weaver, here with my other host,
Nate Bird. Happy to be on the show as always.
Yes, happy Tuesday today. And we have a wonderful guest in studio with us today. James, go ahead and say hi to everyone.
Hello, everyone. Good to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me.
Yes, I'm really excited to have this interview because I've known James for a little bit and he does so many cool things in Utah, but we will get to that after the Minutes Moment today, which is actually really exciting. Someone that I never knew about and was interested in learning more about, just with the recent things going on in Maui with the fires. I just decided I wanted to learn a little bit more about activism in Hawaii and people who did things to work on different things dealing with the Hawaiian people. And so one of the people that I found who did a lot of things, who actually passed away in 2021, her name is Dr. If I mispronounce it, I'm so sorry. Someone please correct me. But it's Dr. Nani K. Trask. She was a scholar, a poet, and a champion for sovereignty for the Hawaiian people. And so she was a founding member of an organization that promoted Hawaiian self-determination for Native Hawaiians and Hawaiian self-governance. And so she was a leading figure in this movement, fighting for indigenous rights and rallying against American occupants of Hawaiian lands, and was very critical of the United States policy and coming and taking over Hawaii. And so she really spoke out about that. She, in 1993, one of the biggest things she did was she helped lead a march of 15,000 people of Native Hawaiians to reclaim land that was held in trust by the state. And this march was one of the first major protests calling for the return of Native lands in Hawaii, and took place on the centennial of the overthrowing of Queen. Of the Queen of Hawaii. Her name is really, I see it and I don't want to mispronounce it. So I'm just going to call her the Queen. You guys can go look up her name later. But yeah, she really, at this march, she took the steps of a palace where former Hawaiian royalty was, and where a government Capitol building was, and told the protesters that I am proud to be here, and I am proud to be angry, and I am proud to be Hawaiian. And really just most of the work that she's done. She also wrote a book, which is called Notes from a Native Daughter, Colonialism and Sovereignty in Hawaii, that she also published in 1993, where she described Hawaii as one of the most fragile and precious of sacred places, now transformed by the American system. And it is becoming a dying land. And she was also a feminist, and really just spoke about the effects of tourism on Hawaii and the culture there. And I don't know, she was just an inspiration to many and an essential part in many indigenous people fighting for the sovereignty of Hawaii and keeping the rights and the lands of a lot of people. And is just something that is really cool to think about. The impact that one person can have. Just, I don't know, when I think about what happened to Hawaii, it's kind of crazy. Not just Hawaii, but there's other places that the United States has been able to, overthrow and take control over and land, and just seeing what's happening with the fires and the lack of resources that are available to them, even though, the United States, they're a part of the United States, but they don't get all the benefits sometimes that the landlocked states do. It just made me want to learn more about the people who are fighting there, and it's just an interesting topic. So shout out to her and all of my coming to Utah. Actually, I met a lot of Polynesian people, a lot of Hawaiian people, where I learned about the sovereignty of Hawaii and how important that is to their people. I had never met anybody from Polynesia really before coming to Utah, and it was just cool to learn about something that I never knew really was an issue, just because I hadn't been exposed to it. One of my closest friends that I had at BYU, she's from Hawaii. And she would always talk about how big of a deal it was. And she herself was an advocate and would go to protests and things like that. And it's really important to her and her people to, remain keep the culture there, because America's doing everything they can to take as much as they can from that little bitty island. So Yeah.
I don't know a ton about it, but I know Hawaii didn't necessarily want to be a state. It was kind of like, because at first they were like similar to how Guam and Puerto Rico are now, where they were like territories of the United States, basically just like colonized lands.
Yeah.
And then for whatever reason, they became a state, I guess, because probably around the same time they put the military base there. Or no, because they became a state in what, 48?
I don't know the exact year.
But I'm sure there was a strategic reason that they made Hawaii a state and not Puerto Rico or
100%.
Guam or the Virgin Islands or whatever. But it'll be interesting to dig into that, because that's not history that you're going to learn in school.
Oh, no, never. I was not taught about that. I didn't even, in my head, I was like, oh yeah, growing up, like they're just one of the states. Like they were always one of the states. Like you're not taught that that's how they became a part of the United States. You just, assume the way that Florida is a part of the United States, that I didn't think too much about it. And Utah is an interesting place because there are so many people from the Polynesias, that part of the world. And I don't know, there's an overrepresentation of that here, which isn't necessarily bad, but it just exposes you to things that if you grew up on the East Coast or Midwest like me, you just don't meet people from those backgrounds, and you don't know, and you just it's cool to learn about different people's rights and advocacies. And so shout out to the people in Hawaii, and if there's any way that you can support in your local community the efforts for helping the people in Maui, definitely look that up. I know I have donated some of my things to help them. So, but on to our interview portion of today. I'm super excited, James, to have you here. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself briefly to the people, and then they'll get to know you more as we ask you a bunch of questions about your life and what you've done.
Okay. Well, hello once again, beautiful people. James Jackson III. I consider myself a community builder and visionary here in Utah. I was born and raised, and I continue to identify and look for ways to help grow our community here. I'm the founder of the Utah Black Chamber, which was back in 2009. So it's approaching its 14th year anniversary here in Utah. Last year, I handed over the reins as it was pretty much growing out of my britches. My baby grew up too much for me to handle. Doing it part-time, with no pay, just really out there trying to grow our community with needs that I felt had to be met. And not knowing that it was going to grow to this level, and it did. And I wasn't going to stop. I was going to let it continue growing. And so it was for me to determine whether or not I needed to continue leading it or continue to allow it to grow the way it needs to be, which is a huge difference, right? My vision doesn't always lead to my abilities or skills, right? And so I stepped down and supported our new leader, and she's definitely taken to that level that I knew it could become and more. And from that, I've just been out in the community, do a whole bunch of other things, boards, committees I sit on, just put out my third book in June.
There you go.
Pretty excited about that. Living with Purpose. This came out June 16th. So that book is out on Amazon, and about to have a book event at King's English Bookstore, support local. So I have a book event there coming up next month.
That's a recommendation.
Yes, that is a recommendation.
Early recommendation.
Early recommendation there. Yeah, absolutely.
We'll call it
but yeah, I'm always, so I'm just excited to be here with y'all. It's always excited to identify other Black groups out here in Utah, because for a while I felt like, there weren't that many. I felt like it's the Black Chamber, NAACP, and the Martin Luther King Commission. Right, when I was starting up the Black Chamber, and I feel like all the government and Utah government entities were just slowly removing a lot of the other diverse organizations they had. Like when I was starting the Black Chamber, there was the Office of Ethnic Affairs, and that slowly went away. And so, but now seeing Black Menaces and all these other organizations, advocacy groups out there, it's exciting to see where Utah's headed.
Yeah, that's actually one of the first questions I wanted to ask you. How has it been? We'll go back to your childhood, but just based off of this, how's it been seeing the population grow, the Black population? Just even in my time, I came here in 2017. Compared to now, it is a huge difference in what I've seen. The amount of Black people, organizations, and things like that. So I'm curious, what has it been for you as someone who's native to hear what it's been like seeing things grow?
When people come here, I'm excited to see them all. And people are like, oh, there's not that many black people. So you should have been here in the 80s and 90s, bro. Like, it was a lot, it was a lot different game. Like here, I feel like it's finally gotten to where I could see black folks on accident. Because before, you had to be intentional about it. You had to go to a church. You had to go to the barber shop, right? There are specific places you knew black people would be, because if you're just out there, you wouldn't find them, right? But now you start seeing folks, and I'm always, always there with the obligatory head nod, like, hey, they respond back. I'm like, look at that.
Yeah.
How you doing? Well, you're from here, try to connect sometimes and figure things out. Up here where I live, up in East Mill Creek, I didn't think I was any black folks up there, but we're hidden. They're up there.
Yeah, I'm in Mill Creek, so look.
Yeah, look at us. Yeah, so, it's definitely been so nice, because when I graduated high school, a lot of my friends left to go find more diverse diverse communities. And there was opportunity for me to go, but school was free, so I stayed. But I didn't want to stay. I just felt like this is how it was going to be. And then when I always wanted to feel connected, and I felt like I had a unique privilege growing up here in Utah, because when you think about 70% of the black neighborhoods across the country are low, moderate income neighborhoods. But here in Utah, I grew up around black business owners, black legislators, black judges, black teachers, black educators, black, real estate people, black professionals. So that's what I knew. I didn't know what it was like in other black neighborhoods. So I'm just like, what other village is there when you leave here to go find more black people? I'm like, what does more black people look like? And you look outside, yes, there are black banks, there are black car dealerships. You see all that. But then, where are they located and how many of them are there, right? But then you come here and you see why people are coming to Utah, because the opportunity is easy here. I was speaking to someone the other day. He said, James, I'm from California. And even being from California, coming here, I've never seen this many black families own houses. Even though we're way below the white counterparts here, it's still pretty significant compared to other parts of the country.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm like, wow, that's really, like, I've never registered that about the experience for black people here. Yeah.
I think that's probably because I never thought of that either, but I think it has to do with the fact that most black people in Utah didn't come from Utah. Like, they ended up here in some way or another. Like, they came here for a specific purpose.
Right.
And so that probably plays a significant role into why more black people here own houses. We're like, whereas in other places where it's just kind of like people have been there for generations, like whether it's the South or big cities, they've been in those systems for generations, and it's harder to get out of those. I think that when people come to Utah, they're leaving a situation like that, or they have a specific reason that they're coming here. So that's interesting to think about.
Yeah, I mean, you think about majority of people that come here for a job opportunity, right?
Yeah.
Especially if you're black, they come here for a job opportunity. They see it here and they're like, all right. Like, they can come here. They can buy a house. They can do this. My only thing I'm trying to figure out is our education system and protecting our black youth, right? Still, that's still work to be done. Because still to this day, there are black families leaving because of the treatment of their kids, right? And so, like, we still have a lot of work there. But outside of that, black professionals, young black folk, or even just old black folk, especially old black folk. People.
Yeah, I was gonna say, especially older, not the old. Sorry, but not that way. But
the older generations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, our new president CEO, she said, like, this is the Bleak Talk Black Chamber. She said this is on her list of retirement destinations. Because I was just in Missouri last week, flat as can be, not a whole lot going on there, so to speak. My daughter's going to college there. You come back here and you realize how majestic our landscape is. Like, when I open my door and I am footsteps from Mount Olympus and just seeing that huge mountain right in front of my face, like, it's incredible.
It's true.
Like, you can literally go from the airport to a ski resort in under 45 minutes. Like, there's no other place in the country you can do that.
That's very true. Very true.
Mm-hmm.
So when talking about the Black Chamber, could you kind of just define what that is for like people who are listening? Like what does the Black Chamber entail? What does it do?
I love that you asked that question because so many times I didn't realize how many people did not know what a Chamber of Commerce was, right? Especially if you're not in the business world, you have no idea what a Chamber of Commerce does. But traditionally, a Chamber of Commerce represents a city or a community's economy. They're out there supporting the local businesses there, they're advocating for them. You know, they're be sure there's they're acting as the representation of those small businesses in every aspect, in the social aspect and in the government affairs aspect, being sure that their needs are being met. And so that's what a Chamber of Commerce does. They're providing that visibility, the resources and education for them to be sure that they're able to grow, be sure that those businesses have that market, that they are able to connect and do the things that they need to do. From a farm to, a retail store, right there, you want to be part of the Chamber of Commerce to be sure you have that support. And so a Black Chamber of Commerce does that same thing, but for the Black community, for our Black businesses. And there are over 150 Black chambers across the country.
I love that. So it's just something you can do like city by city?
You can do city by city. You can do by state. It really just depends on your community, right? I mean, even you look at big metropolises like New York or Houston or others, I mean, they have multiple Black chambers. In a population of 3 million in a predominantly white state, you don't need multiple Black chambers. We're good with just one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it really just depends on where the community is. But our chamber is statewide.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so what kind of take us through what made you want to start the Black Chamber? What was that brainchild like? What made you say, I need to do this? And when did you start it? And what was that process like for you?
When people ask me that question, I really don't know how to answer it because I don't think there is nothing that really made me want to start a Black Chamber. I just didn't see something like, oh, I'm going to start a Black Chamber. Honestly, it happened out of spite, to be honest with you. There was being born and raised in Utah, I feel like one of these times you're going to expose to the network marketing industry because we're like in this network marketing capital of the world with all the headquarters here, right?
So true.
So I was exposed, of course, being a young, just graduated college student, trying to figure out life, and people come up to me, you can make $500 to $1,000 a year working from, $500 to $1,000 a month working from home part-time. I was like, really? I'm in. Show me how to do this. So anyways, I was involved in network marketing. And when you're networking, right, you discover how to network, build a network, especially when you're in a business like that, because you can quickly become part of the NFL club, no friends left, right? Because you're talking to everybody, right? So
people who are not from Utah, you don't understand. This is like a headache a little bit sometimes, but funny. I'm sorry. I'm laughing.
No, you're good. But yeah, and so I discovered networking groups, networking events, networking socials. And then that's how I discovered chambers of commerce. I was like, oh, chambers do this all the time. And soon I discovered that there was a Black chamber being formed here. I was like, oh, that's amazing. So I was quick to jump on that because I was like, if I can do this within my own community, this is great. And get to discover who the movers and shakers are in the Black community. Because, looking at the other chambers of commerce, that's traditionally who the movers and shakers are. They're involved in the chambers of commerce somehow. So saw that happening. I'll never forget. It was February 2006. It was in the original Utah Black Chamber was founded. They did a press conference and everything. I was there, ready to, present, cheering them on. And then a year later, started to go quiet. And at the time, being young, 24, 25, 26-year-old, how old was I? 26. I was like, what the heck? I mean, got us all excited and you just go quiet. Not really realizing how hard it is to start a nonprofit and keep it moving.
Yeah.
Right. And and then they invited me actually to be their guest speaker at a gala because I grew up being a public speaker. And so they invited me to be a guest speaker at their banquet. I was all excited. I was like, all right, I've always spoken church or in community events. Now I'm at a business event. I feel like I made it. So I get to this gala, right? And if you can imagine a hotel ballroom, about how many tables there are.
A lot.
And how many were not filled at this event? Like, it was a horrible showing. I'm sitting there like, well, I'm going to shine. This is exciting for me. But I sat down, I was like, where are my people at? Right. But I was reminded that everything rises and falls on leadership. And so I dialed up the founder and I asked him, what's going on with the chamber? And God rest his soul, he passed away a few years ago, but he told me, he's like, leadership sucks. I was like, what? I was like, yo, I mean, you're the founder. Like, what happened here? So I just needed to start changing things up. And I knew he was going to answer this. I already knew the answer, but I asked it anyway, because I don't know why. Sometimes you just ask the question, know the answer.
Yeah, you should. You know, you shouldn't have asked it.
You shouldn't ask it because you know what you're walking into. And I was like, well, do you know any people that want to take it over? He's like, do you want to take it over? I was like, I wouldn't know what to do. I have no idea. So I'll walk you through this process. I was like, all right. So we talked with the current executive director at the time, and then it was determined between us three that I would be the new executive director, presented to the board. They rejected it. That's where the spike came in.
That's crazy.
I was like, what does this 26-year-old do? Because being a third generation James Jackson in Utah, right? They see my grandfather here, who was a legend, right? Then they see my dad, right, who plays bass for the church. Like, they know him, like, who's this guy? You know, this young cat. They see him as, you know, as Cameron's boy, as, you know, as James Jackson Sr.'s grandson. Like, what's he got? And so, yeah, I was a little intimidated by it, but I put myself out there, and maybe I didn't represent myself well enough. So I called Michael and let him know that, hey, they rejected it. And he's like, all right, we'll start your own. I was like, oh boy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He's like, nah, I no. He's like, I'll show you how to do everything. So long story short, he didn't show me how to do everything. And I realized why the chamber failed. It wasn't that leadership. You know, he just didn't really show them the right way. So they're trying to figure it out on their own as well. Right. And so, but I ended up moving forward because they were slowly dying, and I was ignorance on fire, because ignorance on fire is a lot better than knowledge on ice.
Okay.
So I just started moving forward, started figuring it out, found a whole bunch of mentors around me, discovered there was Utah Hispanic Chamber, and they pretty much took me under their wing for a couple of years. Rest is history.
And now we're here.
Now we're here. We went from what I thought would be like 100 members of small businesses. Now we have approaching 500 members across the whole state of Utah, and have one of the biggest Black voices in the state.
Yes, one of the biggest. It's really cool. Like, it's you've done amazing things. Sorry, Nate, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask. So you mentioned being, you know, one of the biggest Black voices in the state. What is it like behind the scenes politicking in Utah? You know, to kind of clarify, what challenges have you run into? What kind of things are maybe expectations that people have that you might not have realized that they would have? Like, what are some of kind of the behind the scenes of politicking in Utah to kind of, you know, get where you want to go?
You know, it's Utah's a fascinating place. And
that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And being born and raised here, you know, and for myself, as, you know, naturally quiet and shy, right, I observe a whole lot. I sit back and I pay attention to how people interact, you know, from their demeanor to how they communicate and connect with others. And so I learned that way. And so I watched the movers and shakers and what they do. And I learned how they speak. And I've always had this charisma about me, so I just added my flavor to it, right? And so for me, the only challenge that I really had was just learning how to build a chamber. That, because I didn't know any of that. But naturally, I always had the ability to connect with people. Like, that's always been my biggest strength. For me to network in the community, for me to build connections, like, that's always been a gift of mine that I've been able to possess. And I feel like that is the most important skill, I feel like, in all of leadership, is the ability to connect with people. If you can get that down, everything else is downhill from there, right? So because I possess that quality, right, my only challenge is really just trying to navigate this world of the nonprofit sector. But yeah, politicking here is fascinating because we are such a big philanthropic state. We're such a giving state. And if you really understand how to connect with folks, like everybody is going to support everybody. We love to help people out. We love to support one another. I was talking with some of my counterparts in other cities, in other states, and like, James, they don't work like that here. Like, it's straight cutthroat. And it's not on purpose. It's just because there's so many, right? So there's advantages and disadvantages of the population. When there are so many that you don't know what the left is doing or the right hand is doing, right? But here, it's easy to identify, hey, what does Alicia Curly B going on? Or hey, what does Bree have that Raising Me have going on? Or hey, what does the NAACP? Oh, you have that? Oh, let's partner. You and I are doing something similar, right? For me, it's not about the spotlight. For me, it's about the impact, right? And as long as the impact is happening, that's all that matters to me, right? But that's what put me in the spotlight, is because of the production that was occurring. But the politicking here in Utah is just that we love to support one another, and we love to help people. And once you understand that and how to identify who likes to work with who, or who aligns well with you, it's downhill from there.
Okay. Yeah. So, sorry, you were going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say, kind of off of that, I think it's interesting. Someone who I was talking to, they live in Atlanta now. They were talking about just how the Black community does have a sense of unity that other places don't have here. That, she moved to Atlanta from here because she wanted her kids to be around more Black people. She didn't want them to go to school where they didn't see any Black people, all this. And she said that it's been hard to connect with people and to meet people, although there were less Black people in numbers here because of things like the Black Chamber and the different organizations that, the businesses that about that put on things and that they connect with. There's clear ways to connect, and people are seeking that out here. And there is support, very clear support for that. And in other places, I think she's just seeing like, it's just different. It's not bad, but it's, since there's more, there's less of a desire to maybe come together to support in a different way. And again, it's not bad. It's just each place has its pros and cons.
It's here because
that's something very special about Utah that other people have commented on too.
Yeah. I mean, because here you have to be intentional, and that's the difference. When you go to other parts of the country, right, where there is more, you almost have like this expectation, like it's just going to happen. But then you get into the law of association, right? You are who you associate with, right? No matter what. So when I talk about the Black neighborhoods, right, and they're in low income status, well, who are you associating with, right? Do you want those folks to be your mentors? Like you said, Rachel, there's nothing bad about it, but that's your bubble that you're in, right? And so you don't know any better than what to become. You think you have to carry a microphone or dribble or hold a ball in order to get out of that environment. But here, where you're intentional, where we're creating these experiences, we're creating a village to surround these youth by, to surround other people. They're like, oh, yeah, Utah's nice. Like, there's these folks here, there's this guy, Nate, there's this person, Rachel, like they have it going on here. Like, oh, I can get with the Black Menaces, or I can get with the Black Chamber, or I can get with, like there's a lot of community here, and that's what it is,
really
right?
Is. Yeah. And Nate, sorry, go ahead with what you were going to ask. I was just commenting.
Oh, no, I was kind of something similar. But like you said, there is a lot of community here, and it's very intentional. I like that you bring that up because, I think because of the unique climate of Utah and because of how the diversity is changing, right? It hasn't always been a place where there were a lot of Black people. And so as people come into the state, we all kind of know how that is. And so I think as a result of that, we definitely connect a little bit more with each other, and it's more intentional in that way. I wanted to ask, like, what are some of just the overall benefits of having a chamber? Why is it important? Why is it something that we need, here in the state of Utah?
It's because we are wanting to be that voice for not only the small Black businesses, but just for the Black economy here in Utah. Like, what are your concerns? What are your needs? We want to be sure your voice is heard, right? And we're ramping that up more and more these days. Dr. Shorter's done a great job as far as improving our lobbying efforts. Last year I saw happening like right on time too, with all that legislation that was trying to be put down,
that was earlier this year.
Yeah. And, and she, her and her team just really stepped up and really put a voice, had some good representation along with others in the community where we just partnered up and said, we gotta represent, become a bigger voice, and it's going to come back again. Right. And so we want to be that voice for the Black professionals here, the Black businesses, but also be that conduit, that bridge to support for your businesses and resources. Like we are connected to every business resource in the state of Utah. We have relationships with those resources. We know what whatever you need to grow your business, we have a solution for it. And maybe not directly within us, but we're connected to other organizations out there that have those answers for you. And so we can make that introduction, not even just to the organization itself, to people within those organizations, right? Because for us in the community, it's not about just that organization. Like there's other times we have to build that relationship. We have to build that trust, right? And that's why a lot of us don't get associated with like business organizations or even banks, right? We have to find that relationship within that organization before we really feel that bridges, that common ground is connected. And so we have relationships with all these groups. And so we want to be that provider for these businesses. We want to help you become strong. We want to help you grow and thrive. And so that's just the benefits of being a part of the Black Chamber for small businesses. If you're a new Black professional, you come to our first Fridays, you're immediately connected to a whole bunch of Black folks you probably never met before, right? And it's like, this is amazing that there's these Black folks here in Utah, right? And so that's basically who we are. And if you're a big corporation, right, that wants to tap into a different market, right? If you want to figure out how to support, your community that's all around you, right? You want to become a member of the Black Chamber as a sponsor, a big corporate member, and that way you're involved in a community that's growing here, that's thriving, that you can gain an understanding of, right? And if you're really trying to diversify your workforce, we're a hot commodity here.
For sure.
Yeah,
there's definitely need for that.
I was just gonna say what I've seen in my experience with the chamber. It provides so many there's so many purposes, social, financial, like there's just so many benefits that I've seen it be able to not just provide me, but it's connecting me with so many people. I remember I was an intern for the Black Chamber last year for a semester. That's when I first met James. My interview on my phone outside on BYU campus. And I remember ever since I've gone to just any event that the chamber does, I have met so many people doing so many amazing things in the state that I, again, like you said, had no idea that people were doing those things or that there were those type of professionals here that have made, like, since then, like, my experience in Utah has just gotten better and better. The more people I've met, the more I'm aware of and the more connected I've become through meeting people through the chamber. And it's kind of crazy, the big difference. Like, I wish that, I was down in Provo, so that was a little far from up here, but I wish that more young Black students had the experience of knowing that there's a chamber here or knowing that is a way to be connected, because it's hard being, like I said, BYU as Black students, less than 1%. We felt like we had nobody. We had no mentors, no adults to look up to at different times. And because there's not a lot of Black faculty there either. But seeing that chamber in my last semester, I was like, oh, wow, this is really expanding like my possibility. And here's a whole network of people who are willing to help me figure out whatever I want to do. And so, yeah, that's just me tooting the horn of the chamber real quick. So.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I always felt like one of my mentors taught me is like, if you can't change the people around you, you have to change the people around you. Right. We grow up in this bubble, right? And we only know what we know, like at BYU, or whether in a low-income neighborhood, or whether you just feel like you're isolated, right? And you feel like there's so much more, and your association is not giving it to you. It's like there's more out there. Well, trying to change your associations, trying to change your community, trying to figure out how to expand, right? And that's kind of what the chamber helps people do.
Okay, that clicked. That just clicked for me. What you meant? Because I was like, what does that mean? But
yeah, if you can't change the people around you, you got to change the people around you.
I like that. You just full of gems today. Yeah, love it.
I know when you said that you're naturally a quiet person, I was like, really? In my head, I was like, really? I was like, I feel like you're always going and saying important things, but yeah, I'm like I feel like you're an extrovert though, but
I masquerade that way, and then I go home and take a nap.
That's me. I call myself an omnivert because I can be an extrovert when I want to be, but I prefer to be an introvert, and I definitely have to recharge.
Yeah, that recharge is real. I mean, especially now these days, I feel like I was able to take a little bit of a step back after passing the reins on and being more behind the scenes. And then I realized, like, wow, how tired I really was. I was like, I like this break. This is kind of nice. Everybody's talking to Sydney. They don't have to talk to me. I was like, oh, okay. This is cool. Like, there's, my chamber emails, like, only one today. Nice.
There you go.
So one of the questions I'm curious to know about, how is it, what's been like the most surprising part of seeing the chamber's growth over the past almost, what is it, like, what's that now, 7 years or something? What is like been the most surprising thing that kind of shocked you or you weren't expecting?
You don't know, because I was so much in the work, right? Just growing it and growing it and growing it and growing it. And the slow growth of it, it was just, it didn't just happen immediately. It wasn't an overnight success. You're like, bam, right? And so it really didn't hit me, honestly, until we had our leadership retreat with the board in September of 2021. Yeah, in September 2021, I said, wow, we can hire a new president and CEO and I don't have to lead this thing anymore. That's when it really clicked. I was like, huh. And then when we did the press conference / First Friday with Dr. Shorter, and just seeing that and just seeing it evolve that way. And then NBA All-Star Weekend hit.
I remember that.
And seeing all the activations that the organization did. And I just sat there, I was like, I did this. It was this so crazy, like teaming up with the NBA and the NBA Foundation.
Yeah, that's
like
a big deal.
Seeing Adam Silver at our event.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Like
that's cool.
It was some crazy stuff. I was like, huh. So I think that's just been the most surprising, is that, when you're in all this work, you're just laying down, you feel like you've been laying down this foundation, but then you realize that the harvest is there and you're just continually, I just came from Missouri, so I feel like I should know these words. But you're just continually, maintaining the harvest, but it's still like growing.
Yeah.
Like to this day, like we're still having, a member join like every couple of days, it seems like. Like once a week I see a new, I don't know why I'm still on the email, but we still I still get a notification, hey, someone such joined the chamber. I was like, wow. Like every week there's a new member joining. Like it's insane.
Yeah.
That's cool. So what does it take for those listening? What does it take to join the Black Chamber? What do you have to do?
We have various different membership levels that fit everybody, from student to a corporate member, right? So wherever you fit in, you can come on in. And then we have plenty of ways that you can get involved. Like we have several different committees, right? So whether you want to support small businesses, whether you want to support students, whether you want to support, the arts community, if you just want to be a big voice and be part of our board of governors. So there's plenty of ways for you to actually engage and volunteer and support. We have an annual membership, and you can turn the annual membership into like just to pay monthly to make it more affordable for you. So it doesn't really take much. All it really takes for you to engage and just kind of step in, and we'll get you plugged in, and we'll welcome you to open arms and just get excited about what we have going on and just be part of this, part of this growth that's happening here, not just within the chamber, but just Utah overall, and just be a part of that change that we're making. I mean, we're doing so many different things. Not me in particular. I'm just trying to help the organization find it all. I can't keep up these days, but it's just been great. And I can actually, I've been paying, focusing more on my role at Zions now, which has been awesome because it's a whole new program that's not really known here, but everywhere else in the country it's known. So I'm just really, that's my next mission, is really getting supplier diversity out there in the world.
Oh, yes. This is.
What is that? I have no idea what that is.
So supply chain is part of every big company, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like supply chain is is getting the tools and resources that you need to put your product out there. And within the bank, as a supply chain, you're gaining all these vendors and suppliers to help push your banking product out, whether it be technology, whether it be this furniture, whether it be the maintenance of your building, what have you. And so we always have to go out and source for vendors for that. So my goal is to add diverse businesses into that mix, right? It's not just about having a Black caterer come in during Black History Month. It's like, oh, you do cybersecurity? Let me have you talk with our tech department and see if we could help us with our cybersecurity, or help us with our management software, help us, with so many different, like we have so many vendors, right? With a big company like that, thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of different vendors. We have 8 banks across the West, right? And so I do the sourcing for all of those. And it's crazy because when I came into this role, I kind of knew about it, but really didn't know. But I didn't really know how popular it was outside of Utah.
Oh, yeah, supplier diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
and I
actually
come
really
in here and realize I think I am the only person in this role residing in Utah of all the companies that are here. And so, it's just like there's all these other big companies that are really that are based out of here that are trying to figure out, like other banks, almost every bank has a supplier diversity program, but of course their headquarters is not in Utah, right? And so now it's just really trying to get that out there, trying to help our diverse businesses get their diverse business certification so they can be exposed to these type of opportunities. So that's next up on the agenda.
Well done. So, you work at Zions in supplier diversity. You are responsible for the Black Chamber as we know it today. I kind of want to know a little bit more just about like your everyday life, right? You mentioned that you're an author, that you just released your 3rd book, or you're about to put it out?
No, it's just released, came out in June.
Okay, so that's right, June 16th. You just released your 3rd book. Tell us a little bit about how, what it was like to write those books, what got you even doing that in the first place, and what made you want to do 3. Because writing papers, you give me a 10-page paper in college, and it's time to drop out after 10 pages. So
it was evolution. I've always wanted to be an author because I'm writing stuff every day. I have a Google Drive of training. I have my own business started in 2016, J3, and it's really that's my leadership company. So I do a lot of leadership workshop and training for companies, small businesses, nonprofits. I do consulting as well for nonprofits and small businesses, trying to help them focus on strategy and building leadership, building their team. That's what my jam is: building leaderships, building leaders. That's my go-to. But I've always wanted to write a book, and just trying to figure out how. But randomly, I don't even know how she found me, but this new publisher, she started her own little publishing company. She reached out to me on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I'm putting together this book, and sought you out. Looks like you were doing a lot of great things out there in Utah. I wonder if I could participate in this book project I'm on. I'm seeking 24 different authors across the country, across the world, to write about their leadership experiences through the pandemic." And I'm like, 1 chapter? I can do 1 chapter. This I could actually be an author. This is cool. So we put it out there. So that was my first book, Leading Through the Pandemic: Heartfelt Wisdom from Unconventional Leaders. It came out in January of 2021. And then I went back to that publisher. I said, "Kaylee, I have an amazing idea." Because I wanted to put the Black Chamber on the map, not just for Utah, but for the country. I was like, people don't know how cool Utah is as far as the Black community. And I know a lot of cool people here, and I want to interview them and put them in a book and call it Black Utah. Not focus on any Black history, but what's happening right now and what's going and what Utah's trajecting to be. Trajecting, is that a word? I don't know.
The trajectory.
The trajectory, NBA, they don't teach English. Anyway, so And she was like, that's amazing. Let's do it. So February of 2022, I intentionally put it out in February, Black History Month, came out with the book, Black Utah, Stories from a Thriving Community. So I interviewed 33 individuals, and they just kind of shared their stories about their experiences here in Utah and what they're doing. So I'll interview change makers like Reverend Davis, Betty Sawyer, Sandra Hollins, and like emerging leaders like Angel Clayton and Sia Molly. Like they're all in that book. And they just kind of shared their wisdom and their experiences here and why Utah is for them and why it's for others, right? And once I put that out there, I was like, I think it's time. And it just clicked. I'm like, this is what I want to write my book about, because my tagline for my company, J3, is live with purpose. And that's how I've always lived my life. There's always intention in everything that I've done. I'm not good at the game of chess, but I'm good at the chess of life. So I'm always thinking a few moves ahead. I'm always putting my players together and how to figure some things out and identify things. So I went back to Kaylee and I was like, I'm ready for my book. And then she told me, oh, James, I'm not doing individual books anymore. I'm focusing on these group projects. Like, no. I promise you, you want me to do this book. Like, so I sold her on, I'm a good salesperson. So I sold her on this last project with me. And I'm her longest standing customer, right? And so she's like, all right. And so when you have like this vision of what you want to become and you kind of see yourself grow into this space, like it wasn't hard. Like you think about a 10-page essay, because you're writing about other things. But when you spend time and start writing about yourself, right? We do a journal, right? A lot of us always encourage to do like a journal every day, like just to write something. I don't necessarily like have a journal. I'm still trying to get better at writing a journal, but I've always having ideas and concepts and experiences and learning from others. I have mentors all over the country that I listen to or watch or pay attention to. And through those experiences, I had gained my own. And I just put them all in this book, Living with Purpose. And it's just really like my life experience, like who I came to be, started public speaking at the age 12. And just kind of grew from there. And that's how I fell into the space that I'm in now, and just encouraging others on how to find their passion, how to grow their influence, and how to really use their endurance to persevere through it all so they can live out the life that they want it to be.
Period. Love that. As you were talking, I was thinking, what I feel like when Black people come to Utah, it's shocking the experience that they have. It's very jarring if you came from a place with more Black people, and it can be very negative, right? And like be very disheartening and making you feel like, I don't want to be here. This is not the place for me. And so what would you say are, like, if you can name like 3 positive or like things that are growing and changing for Black people and for the Black experience in Utah, as a native who's seen it all?
One of my mentors shared with me, there's only 10 miserable, horrible people in the world. They just move around a lot, right? So that's kind of the experience he shared with me. So like, there's always going to be these 1 to 2 hotheads or whatever, these interesting folks, fascinating people in the world, no matter where you are in a community, right? You're always going to experience something like that. Here in Utah, I feel like we are a predominantly white state. However, we're a state that's welcoming, and somehow we just don't know how to welcome all the time because we haven't been introduced to every experience. Utah is in a kind of a bubble, right? Because we are the headquarters of a huge religion. Right. And so because of that, it does create this kind of a bubble, because with that, you're not introduced to so many different experiences being like in the quote unquote Mecca of it all.
Yeah, this is
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so because of that, you are sheltered from a lot of different experiences. And so when you get through that, you'll discover that these people are nice. They want to help. They just don't know how exactly. And if you're patient enough, right?
Keyword.
Patient enough to really allow them to figure it out. Or if you are understanding enough to educate them, they're more than willing to push through all that and build a wonderful relationship with you.
Yeah.
For me, being born and raised in Utah, I understood that. I was like, oh, just a lot of ignorance here. I've never encountered a bunch of racism in my life, maybe 1 or 2 experiences as a child. But I experienced a lot of ignorance. I was like, bruh, that's not how you say it. You want to do it, say it this way. Like, I'm glad you said it to me, because if you said it to someone else, you wouldn't have a head anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like, oh, thank you. Especially after 2020, then people didn't want to speak. Yeah. They're scared. And then there was some that's like, they felt like they had permission to just say whatever they wanted to, right? And they're like, oh, okay. And those were the horrible people came out, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like there's that ignorance when you get through that. And then also, there's not a lot of people here. So it's like 1 to 2 degrees of separation. So you get to know 2 to 3 Black folks, you can know everybody else, which is great. It creates that community, right? And then just the thriving economy here. Like, I feel like we don't necessarily have like the shield of a recession, but we persevere better than other states.
It's true.
That makes sense. I wanted to clarify, is it fair to say, when you say that you haven't experienced a lot of racism, but you've experienced a lot of ignorance, when you say you haven't experienced a lot of racism, do you just mean like hostile experiences where people, you know, specifically because of the color of your skin, treated you a certain way? You haven't experienced a lot of that, but you have experienced a lot of things where people said or did things because they didn't necessarily know any better or didn't understand the ramifications. Okay, that makes sense. I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I call it ignorance, right?
Yeah,
because they don't know.
I would agree. Yeah, I would say I've not experienced very many like hostile racist experiences, but a lot of just ignorance.
Yeah, a lot of ignorance. And I see now there is more of there is a little bit more racism coming, but it's happened all over the country, right? Because I feel like the last few years they've been given that permission, right? And here they're just a little more passive about it, you know. But they feel like they can do a little bit. They can push the envelope a little bit more, and then they see folks like us, like, oh, there's more of them than I thought to have a voice, and so they're like, all right, I'll pull back, and that's why it's important for our community to really step up and engage. That's important for us, you know, to get people engaged in the Black Chamber, to get people engaged in the Black Mezzas, to get people engaged in all these other organizations, right? Because our voices all together, I mean, we're a force to be reckoned with.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and something that's interesting about Utah is because there are more white people here, sometimes you'll be at events and there'll be more like white people they're supporting than like our own community for certain things, you know? And that's something that I found interesting too about Utah, is that when people, like, there are people who do want to put in that work to, and they're very committed. They'll show up to things, and sometimes our community doesn't show up in the ways that I even want in certain spaces that other people have shown up better for us that aren't a part of our community.
I was participating in a panel discussion, and this phrase came to me as like, mentors magnify, allies amplify, right? And here in Utah, like, the allies here are legit. Like, they really do amplify. And a great example is like, there was a summit I was attending a couple of years ago. It was for a whole bunch of African students. And I was like, hey, James, you want to come be a guest speaker? I was like, okay, teach on financial literacy. And so I come in, but the biggest contributor and supporter and who helped, like, was like one of the primary people who put it all together was some white blonde woman. Supporting all of this whole group of African folk. And I don't know the connection, never asked, but she always allowed them to lead the whole thing, but she just wanted to be sure that they had all the resources and support and help make sure that the event was a success. So I thought that was amazing, right? But we have a lot of that here. And after the murder of George Floyd, we had a person joining the chamber every single day for like 2 months straight. Man. And the majority of those members were non-Black people.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's important too. I think that there's a huge opportunity for people in Utah to be allies. But it's just a matter of taking that step. Of figuring out what needs to be done and then going for it. Because Utah is such an interesting community. You know, there's a lot of you know, like you said, it's the headquarters of a huge religion or it's you know, of an organization. And then on top of that, you just have like a unique combination of elements that bring people here, right? So you've got a lot of Black kids here who maybe have grown up here, who are being raised with parents who are not the same race as them. And, you know, that creates a different dynamic. And then you have a lot of people who come internationally, you know, from other countries. That also creates a different dynamic. And then you have a high concentration of people from the Polynesian Islands. So it's just all like it creates a really unique environment, you know, for people to really learn about a lot of different experiences that if you go to other areas, you might not have as much of an opportunity to learn about. So that's interesting.
I mean, we have a very diverse community.
Very diverse, more diverse than I grew up with. Like and in my head, I'm like, is it because I was young and ignorant, or it was really just like I only knew like Black Americans, like African American. I didn't know anybody else. And so when I came to Utah, I was taught a lot of things.
Yeah, I mean, you come here, you got the Polynesian Festival, you got the Brazilian Festival, you got the Peruvian Festival, you got it's like where all these communities come from. You know, I know some folks who in Atlanta, it's like, James, it's just black and white. And sometimes it's just black. And that's it. You know? So
growing up in Chicago, I can relate to that. So.
Yeah. And so you come here and you get all this community.
That's true. Very true. And I think Utah, again, because of the numbers, right? When you, at least historically and still now, there is such a strong pull for these communities to come together that doesn't exist in other places. And yeah, it just creates an environment where people are more than willing to like do those things to build that community and create that space for them and show up for themselves and for the people who they identify with because they want that, they need it. Yeah. So, and it's, again, not like that in other places. And it's really cool. And it's been an opportunity of growth for me to learn about different communities, people from different backgrounds that are not like Black American, because they're, if anything, in the minority people of color bucket, right? Black Americans are like a smaller group here if we're comparing number wise in Utah specifically. And so because of it, just by proximity, I've had to learn about people from different backgrounds, and it's been a great experience for me. Even within my own diaspora.
Yeah, I would definitely say I've learned a lot more coming to Utah. It's interesting, you know, I grew up, lived kind of a sheltered life, but coming to Utah actually opened my eyes to a lot of things that I never thought I'd be able to learn or experience. And so, yeah, in a lot of ways, this is a great place to come and to learn, educate yourself, to learn about various different experiences. But it's a double-edged sword too, because you know you can come here and you can kind of fold in on yourself if you're not careful.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. It goes back to being intentional again. You had to be intentional yourself of wanting to figure it out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I was gonna say all we're talking about is only by us choosing to engage in these spaces, right? Like, for example, just at BYU, for example, the Black community there is very diverse. There are people from different parts of West Africa, people from the islands. Like, it will be a BSU, half of the people speak French, you know what I mean? And stuff like that. But I sought that experience out. I sought out being an experience around Black people where I was around a diverse group of people and having friends from, you know, friends who are Tongan, Samoan, friends who are Hawaiian. I had a friend who was Tahitian, like all these different backgrounds, because that's what I wanted. I wanted people who were either like me or similar to me in some way, and learning that. But not everyone here wants to do that or takes the effort to reach out to people that are not like themselves. So you have to really put yourself in that space, and grateful for it, because now I know a ton of people, and it makes it, me and Nate always joke about this, we make it leaving Utah harder and harder on ourselves because we keep getting more and more invested in the communities that are here and the system and the network that we've built here. So
yeah, I tell Michelle, my partner, she's like, James, you passed on the chamber, so that means, well, she always told me, like, when can we leave Utah? You know what I mean? And I was like,
she's just like me.
I was like, I can't. I'm running a Utah Black chamber. Like, I can't just like up and leave that joint. Then I hand it over, and what does she do? She starts a nonprofit. So, like,
wow,
your turn.
Yeah, that's a way of sucking you in. For sure.
Okay, well, I think that's all we had for today. This was a great interview, James. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing about your experiences. Just grateful for you and what you've done, because the Black Chamber's like footprint is on so many parts of the Black community here, and I don't know where our community would be without the structure that it's created for so many communities and different things that have now come out in the past year. So just big thank you to you and your pioneer. Like, you are a pioneer in Utah and what you've done for the community. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a pleasure and honor, and I'm just excited to see it execute the way it has. I'm actually seeing the vision come to life. It's been so awesome.
And more Black people are moving here every day. I swear, like literally every day, and they're actually finding places, right? Like, they can come to a First Friday, and people are finding the community faster.
Yes.
That's something I've noticed in the past year as well. Like, the Black community, when Black people move here, they find Black people very quickly.
Yes.
It doesn't take them as long as it used to. And
I used to say, I haven't seen a Black person in like a month. And now it's like, it's next day.
Yeah, no, it's like,
all the time.
we have like a group chat, jump on there. There's events happening every single day.
Yeah. I was at one of our First Fridays. This person literally moved in the day before.
See?
You know what I mean? I was like, it's amazing. Like, trying to hold my tears back, like, it's finally happened. Like, she saw a Black person the next day, probably in the airport. You know what I mean? So it's awesome.
That's also sorry. I've seen more Black people at the airport. There's just little signs that you're like, wow, we're really here. There's more of us at the airport. There's more of us at the grocery store.
And more people that give you the nod.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they're
getting the nod happening. I was like, because sometimes you get the nod, you don't get it back. You're like,
all right, what's going on?
Like, what's up with that?
Like, there was a while where that was mostly it, and so happy where the community itself is changing as well. The type of people, so
it is changing, but that doesn't tell us that we can slow down. Like, we gotta keep pushing, right? Because we still got a lot of work to do here.
Absolutely,
100%
for sure. A lot that needs to be done.
Yes,
so keep it going.
Yeah.
And next year for Pioneer Day, we're celebrating you.
I like it.
Yes.
There you go.
With pie and beer.
There you go.
Yes.
Pie and beer for the pioneers.
Yeah.
Cool. So now we'll do recommendations.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first, Nate? This week?
I can go first.
Yes.
All right. My recommendation, I am very excited about it. My recommendation is to go to a concert if you've never been to one, or even if you have been to one, just go to a concert, find some tickets, and go. There's a lot of opportunities to go to different ones. A bunch of people just came through Utah. 50 Cent was here. Snoop Dogg was here.
Bro, yeah, there's
Alicia
random
Keys was
people.
here.
Ludacris on Thursday.
Ludacris.
What?
Yeah.
You going?
I don't know yet. We'll see.
Yeah. Just a bunch of different artists that are coming through and have been through Utah and surrounding areas. I'm wearing a shirt. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe I should stand up or something. But anyway.
The Queen.
Yeah, I'm wearing a shirt.
Queen, you should know who we're talking about.
I bought it from her line because tomorrow I leave to go to Phoenix to go see Beyonce. So I'm excited for that. Going with my wife. We're gonna have a good time. And last year was my first time going to a real concert. I went
Really?
It was my first time ever.
I didn't know that, Nate.
I was 25 at the time, 26. I just turned 26. And I went to a Summer Walker, Jasmine Sullivan, Ari Lennox concert in LA.
That was amazing.
It was my first concert. It was an incredible experience. And then a couple months later,
my first concert,
my wife surprised me with Kendrick Lamar tickets. And so
amazing.
Yeah, my recommendation is to just go to a concert. And tickets are not that expensive. We got Beyonce tickets for I think my wife's was like 150. Mine was like 275. So
Kendrick Lamar does an amazing job in his concert.
Did you go to the one he had in Salt Lake?
Yeah,
we did too.
I went in LA. We even stayed just right off of Rosecrans where he grew up. So I got the full experience. It was a good time. Yeah,
he does an amazing job.
That was a great concert.
My first concert was MC Hammer. So my age.
Right. I was like, wow. No. No, but Kendrick, that was a good concert, minus the white boys who were doing too much because I was in the general admission. They were.
That was fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw from afar, but yeah.
But yeah, it was. I was like, why are y'all singing "We Gonna Be All Right" like this? Like, this is not your. Why y'all singing DNA so powerfully?
You rapping along.
I was like,
DNA.
why are you rapping DNA so passionately? I'm like, do you know the lyrics right now? Like, it's not. We gonna be all right. This song isn't for you. Anyway, that was just interesting. I never had that experience of singing and jumping with people that I'm like, oh, this is not your music though.
Well, you know, I have non-Black children, and my youngest, you know, she tells me those experiences being at Skyline High School, and she tells me all the days, like, she loves her hip hop artist. She's also a country girl. Like, she's very eclectic with her music, right?
I love that country too.
Yeah. And so she tells me, like, yeah, she's like, James, you'll probably hit a lot of my friends sometimes, you know, because they like you said, they love the songs, they love the artists, but they don't resonate. They don't know how, you know, because Kendrick Lamar is a different kind of artist, right?
Oh yeah,
he's a poet. Yeah, spoken word. He just makes it sound real good.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yep, that's true.
Okay, my recommendation for the week. Okay, this is gonna be my recommendation. So I've been eating sandwiches a lot recently. This is really random. And my friend gave me a panini press. Do you remember me talking about?
I have one. Love a good panini.
Okay, do you remember me talking about wanting one?
It's
Got one. And it's great. You should get a panini press. Everyone should get a panini press. I love. I grew up in Chicago. We eat sandwiches a lot. I feel like maybe I didn't realize that was like an area thing. People, just like they eat bagels in New York. I don't know. I grew up eating a lot of sandwiches. Love them. And I just love when you can put some good cheese on it and melt it and squeeze it and put some avocado in there, and it's just so good. And it's a good lunch. Inexpensive lunch too. So that is my recommendation. They're like $40 on Amazon. And it will really upgrade your sandwich life.
Oh, yeah.
I promise you it's worth it, especially working from home. I just, can do them every day.
Yeah.
If you want to change your life, sprinkle some rosemary and olive oil on top of the bread and toast that.
Okay. I've never done that.
You got fancy with it.
Right. I'm like, wait, I've never known that. I'm just, I just squeeze that mug and I'm just, that's what I do. But I'm going to try that next, Nate. And I'm going to report back to you.
Everything. I'll be making my own sauces and everything.
I do.
Mixing random condiments until it tastes good.
Yes, you do. Nate is the one who put butter on, or was that the butter spread that you put on the chicken?
Oh, on chicken, yeah.
Yeah.
It was like lemon pepper butter.
Yeah, there's like this flavored butter. A Black business here, actually.
Yeah. Heaven's Best Butters.
Yes.
Navarro throws it down with those butters, man.
Go get you some Heaven's Best Butter, because that stuff is life-changing.
That is a recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Anyway, Nate put it last year at a barbecue on some chicken, and it was really good. Recommend that too.
Yes, indeed.
That this butter I put on steak.
Which one is it? Is it the garlic mozzarella?
No, I still close. So clearly, everyone, we will link this in
Heaven's Best flavored butter.
So you can put this stuff on.
No, he doesn't have a brick and mortar location, right?
He's just at the farmers markets.
Okay.
Yeah. Go find them.
There are actually a lot of Black businesses like that just are at the markets. So that's a recommendation too. Go to one. You'll see them. James K., your recommendation for the week?
Man, so many. I recommended my book already. Find it on Amazon. Come see me at King's English on September 16th. But I think my recommendation, I talked about earlier about, being in a journal. If you're not a good journal writer, you can start with what I'm starting with. It's called the 5-minute journal. You can wake up every morning, just write 3 things you're grateful for, 3 things you're looking to accomplish today, and then an affirmation. That's it. So, if you're trying to get in a journal, I just recommend just start there and then let it evolve.
And there's actually like research psychologically. My therapist always tells me about the gratitude thing. It genuinely does. Even if you do it at the end of the day, not at the beginning, like they've done research to show that changes the way that you view your day, yourself. And it can really improve your mental health. Even if you just write 3 things down that you're grateful for, it can make a big difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love them.
Yeah. That's all we have this week. And we will talk to you guys later.
Peace.